Good Tuesday afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on? Welcome on in to the PWTorch Fireside Chat for Tuesday, December 6th. How's it going? I'm PWTorch Assistant Editor Zach Haydorn here live with you as usual around this time on Tuesdays, and adding a little bit to the agenda today because I want to talk a little bit of Monday Night Raw. We didn't get to do a preview yesterday, which I'm not thrilled about. I don't like missing those, but had some things pop up, and yeah, thus we couldn't really talk Monday Night Raw. But I want to do that today, and we'll talk a little Monday Night Raw, and then of course, it being Tuesday afternoon, we will preview tonight's episode of WWE NXT. Thank you for joining us. If you're joining us live, I appreciate it. If you're watching us on demand, I appreciate it as well. If you haven't done so already, click subscribe and like the videos. And there's like a little notification button that you can click to make sure that you know when we populate the channel with new stuff like this, our preview shows, our flagship show on Thursdays, where we talk all the news of the week. And of course, then the all of our interviews and Wade's content and a host of other just really cool things that are here on the channel. But you can't fully know about them all unless you subscribe. And we are 10 people away from hitting that 3,000 mark. Would be a cool thing to do before the end of the year. So help us out. Tell a friend, hit subscribe, and we very much appreciate it. Azan, thank you so much for joining us. Raw was a 7 out of 10 last night, so let's start there. I thought Raw last night was a good show too. I wasn't really sure what to make of the card that they had put together, because it seemed to me that they kind of just tossed some things out there for lack of a better way to put it. And I just thought that was an interesting way to go. And the first time we've really seen that play out the way that it has in the Paul Levesque Triple H era of booking. And I thought it worked for the most part, to be completely frank. Like, I think those number one contender qualifier matches in the women's division were a bit out of left field. And so, like, when they're announced, I'm going, okay, what's the hook here? Where did these come from? How are these people selected, et cetera, et cetera? But by the end of the night, I think they got it to a pretty good place. And from a story perspective, of course, but also I think that they really kind of were able to continue storylines within those two matches as well. And now have really kind of essentially two big-ish women's division stories and feuds on Raw. That's coming, Steven. Welcome to the show. No, this is a new hat. It's a Bulls hat, though, if you can see the bull there. I'm not, I got to drop the White Sox hat for a while, guys, because, it's not baseball season, and the White Sox are depressing me right now. Holes all over the team, I tell you, holes all over the team, and not doing a darn thing as of right now to fill said holes. So on to another losing team in the Bulls. Oh my. But yes, Santa hat maybe later on, maybe closer to Christmas. My daughter will love it, that's for sure. Anyway, so yeah, we've got a good chunk of happenings in the women's division coming out of Raw this week. We've got Bianca Belair and a title program for her. What I believe is going to be a fresh one, right? I mean, Bayley won one of the triple threats yesterday. Alexa Bliss won the other. I think you can certainly make an argument for both of those women winning next week when they square off one-on-one with the number one contendership on the line. But I don't think so. I don't think that's what you're going to get. I think this is going to be Alexa Bliss's match to win. And I don't think it's going to be clean necessarily. I think what you're going to get is Becky Lynch getting her retribution and revenge on Bayley for damage control, costing Becky the match this week. Well, Becky is going to jump in, cost Bayley the match next week. And now you officially have your two feuds ready to go. You've got Bianca Belair and Alexa Bliss. And then you have Becky Lynch and Bayley. Two prominent women's feuds to kind of take us through the holidays, through the new year, and into WrestleMania season. That's not bad. You're not going to pay that off on pay-per-view, I don't think. I think both those feuds will probably be paid off on television, and then rolling into the Royal Rumble match, because look, you need to have some star power in that Royal Rumble match for sure. So but I think that's strong. I think that's a strong way to take this stuff. As far as having to fill TV time from now until the Royal Rumble, when you're actually building for a pay-per-view. So that was a strong part of the show, and I think both those matches were pretty darn good too. I mean, you had Bayley, you had Rhea Ripley and Asuka in one match in a triple threat match. I mean, that's pretty cool. Like, that's a solid triple threat match right there. All former NXT champions. The bigger names on the Raw women's division and on Monday Night Raw, all in one match. Not bad if you ask me. So I like that match, and I like the main event too. I don't think it was as good as that first triple threat, but I think it held its own just fine. Do I think the Bray and Alexa stuff will be better this time around? Boy, isn't that the question. I'm not sure what to make of Bray Wyatt at this point in time. I was on the SmackDown post show covering for Wade this week. Hopefully you guys all listen to that. And it's one of those things where, I don't know yet, because we haven't seen enough from Bray Wyatt. We've seen a lot of the same thing. He's really kind of like laying the groundwork for this character. But just like other times with Bray Wyatt, we don't really know where the story's going, or where he's going with the story, or where he's going with the character. Sometimes that's a good thing, because it leaves us intrigued and guessing and conversing about it. But other times it's a bad thing, where there's so little context and direction there that there's nothing to invest in. And I don't think we're in either camp yet. We're still kind of in the middle, figuring out which way to go. So, Azan, I don't want to punt on your question, but I don't know. I don't know yet. I'm not confident, though, because of just what we've seen in the past. But hopefully it is better. I don't think we're going to see anything for a bit, though. I think Alexa is going to have, like a longer-ish feud here with Bianca Belair, and maybe in the second match, or maybe even in the third match, that maybe relationship comes out a bit. But for this first one here next week, I think it's going to be kind of straight Alexa Bliss. That's my guess anyway. Drop in the chat. What do you guys think about the women's division on Raw right now? Curious as to your thoughts. While you do that, let's talk about the other parts of Raw. Seth Rollins and Bobby Lashley on a collision course next week. They're also going to have a number one contender match, with the winner facing Austin Theory for the United States Championship. Now, Seth and Bobby, I think, had a pretty decent confrontation last night on the show. I mean, I really do. I think that Azan, you hit the nail on the head. Who's who? What and who are we supposed to feel for in this feud? Are they both babyfaces? Are they both heels? Is one and one the other? Like, I think they both have shown likable qualities. They both have shown unlikable qualities. And the kicker is you have Austin Theory, who's this super heel, on the sideline as champion, who both these baby faces are chasing. And I guess fundamentally, I just don't like that aspect of it. I don't like that you're seeing these two babyface guys in Seth Rollins and Bobby Lashley just acting like jerks to each other, but then one or both at some point are going to be flipped around and face to face with this super heel that everybody's gonna cheer for them. I think you want to be a little more clear than that, even if you're going to do this match, right? And I don't think there's any problem with doing this match, because you had them both involved in the triple threaded Survivor Series. They both kind of got screwed over when Austin Theory won in the lucky way. So I think it makes sense for them to collide to get to decide who the number one contender is going to be. I think that makes sense. So that's fine. But why do they have to act like jerks to one another? Like, why does Seth have to kind of goad Bobby Lashley as a babyface? Like, to me, the play there is, just act like a good sport. It's pretty simple. Like, act like a good sport, respect, and have the match. May the best man win. I don't see what's wrong with that. I mean, you could even do Seth's crazy little character like in that vein. He doesn't have to completely punt the character in order to get there. So I think they missed on that last night because neither one of them came across looking very likable. Austin Theory is going to enhance that a little bit for sure, but I don't think you want to be herky-jerky all over the place, and I thought they were last night. That being said, the brawl that they had, I think, like that click, that kind of just created some intensity, and I think that was fine. And I think Austin Theory, I know this might push some buttons, but the guy is getting some legit heat out there. I mean, he really, really is. I mean, he's getting tip-top heat, real heat. And he's also being positioned in the ring where he can back it up and come across as a little more dangerous. It reminds me of when Kurt Angle first turned heel, like real heel back in, I think it was 01 or maybe at the end of 2000. And he went from kind of like this kind of comedy, three eyes, wrestler, and a heel wrestler, but he went from kind of like a comedy heel to a true dangerous heel. And that's where he found his edge. And that's where he became, main event guy, like from just mid-card guy to main event guy, was finding that next level. And I think Austin Theory is going through a similar, they're going through a similar thing right now. With Austin Theory, giving him that serious edge back, and because of that, I think he just comes across looking like $1,000 million. It's been tremendous, and he's been hot as a heel character. I don't expect him to lose the title no matter who wins next week, Seth or Bobby. I think it's staying with Austin Theory. It's helping him right now. It's helping him, and he's making that title look strong, and the title's helping him look strong as well. And that's ultimately what you want. Let me dive into the chat here because I think there's some good stuff. Steven jumping in with chatting about the women's division a little bit on Raw. They've got a solid 8 or so women there, haven't they? I think one needs to go to SmackDown soon, though. Yeah. Man, we talked about that on Friday night on the SmackDown post show when I was co-hosting for Wade. I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches on Raw compared to the SmackDown women's division. I mean, Ronda Rousey's got, some really kind of lower end opponents. Liv Morgan is probably maybe the second biggest regular star on the show. And it's a big drop off after that. Shotzi is your title contender. Shayna Baszler's there, but she's kind of back up to Ronda. And so it falls off a cliff after Ronda Rousey if you don't have like Charlotte on the show, which they haven't for months on end now. And then on Raw, yeah, you've got Becky, you've got Bayley, you've got Rhea, you've got Bianca. Then you have the supplemental talent like Asuka and you have Alexa Bliss, you've got Damage Control, you've got Candice LeRae. I mean, one I think could go to SmackDown, maybe even more than that. I think makes good sense. Dr. Ross, what's going on, man? Glad you're here with us today. Steven also said, I'm not over the Seth character. You can't just get in the ring dressed like a did and keep laughing. Well, he would tell you, I'm sure, Steven, that it's more to it than that. But it's become that a little bit. And I think when you have to cue the audience the way that he does to sing your song, you're in the zone of pandering, and sometimes that can work. Sometimes it definitely can work. There's no question about it. And I thought the crowd was a little tentative last night, to be sure, but I generally agree. I think he's got to find something a little bit deeper than that. As a babyface, this thing works, I think. as soon as it goes heel, it gets all messed up because he's not a strong enough heel with the whole presentation and the whole act to get heat. And so to kind of get the response that he does, even if it is like forced with the song, it just doesn't jive if he's trying to be a jerk. And I think, the character right now really contradicts itself in a lot of ways. Like the outfits that he wears are obnoxious. Like some of them are cool, right? And they look neat and they're weird and they're out of this world, but they're also kind of just obnoxious. That's very heelish. The laugh that he does, very heelish. The song, very babyface. His style in the ring, super babyface. So he's got a lot of things going on right now that just are not connecting. And I hate to say it, but it's like that's kind of the story of Seth's like career from a character standpoint. Like it's almost all there, but just not quite clicking like one final time. So I'm going to look at if you're him. Let's keep going here. Steven again. Hey, they're obviously setting Lashley to get screwed by Adam Pearce. Yeah, I think that's how they're going to get out of the finish next week. Unfortunately, because they're going to promote this match in a very, very big way and then not deliver like a clean finish. And so not great. That's the thing too, Dr. Ross. It's strange. With Becky and Seth, I think that's what you're referencing is Seth. You have the best sounding board to come across WWE in a long time in your house and on the road. You think you'd want to pick her brain a little bit and kind of figure out a way to become a more consistent, likable character. It makes me think that Seth just doesn't care about that. Like I get the sense sometimes that he's out there and he just wants to do what he wants to do, and that's it. Like tradition be damned and history be damned. Like I get that sense sometimes when I watch him that I don't care what happens. I'm going to do my moves. I'm going to do my things. And I think, look, like 7-8 times out of 10, he's got tremendous instincts. He's a top star in WWE, the biggest wrestling company in the world, who's had major matches and memorable matches and has been a part of WrestleMania main events. Like, he's a supremely talented guy, which is why I just get a little confused. Like, you know better than this, Seth. Like, be better. And then last but not least on Raw last night was the Bloodline stuff. I thought the Bloodline stuff was pretty good. I also think that it's just they've gotten the Bloodline to a position where they can be relevant and be impactful without Roman Reigns. And that's huge because you kind of you have Roman Reigns' presence without Roman Reigns being there. And if you weren't able to kind of trot out the Bloodline the way that they do without Roman there due to Roman's new schedule, I don't know that it would have the Bloodline thing would have the kind of staying power and legs that it has right now. But Sami Zayn has upped his game, obviously. The Usos have upped their game. Solo Sikoa upped his game. We'll talk about that in a second. But I like the opening promo for that reason, that they just showed that they can carry themselves in a big way without Roman Reigns again. Here's my only gripe. And slap my wrist if you think I've crossed the line. What's going on, Dennis? Thanks for joining us, man. If you think I'm crossing the line here, and this is where I'm about to go, is on Bloodline are great faces, except they're not. They're not supposed to be faces anyway, but they're getting a positive reaction. And I thought last night when Sammy was kind of talking about how the Bloodline is very Usi and Riddle is not, the psychology there is off. And I think I'm surprised that Sammy isn't more in tune with the reaction that the Usi thing is getting. Maybe it's just that they're like, hey, push this because we want to push merch. Okay, I can understand that. But it doesn't mean that it's good for the story, because when the Usi thing is a babyface thing right now. Like it is like the crowd wants to cheer Usi. They think that being Usi is a good thing. So when the heels in Sammy and the Bloodline are calling themselves Uzi and not Riddle, and the crowd's cheering it. That's off. Like, that's a storyline that's off. That's a psychology that's off. And Sammy and the Bloodline did not do Riddle any favors in that moment. So I want to call that out. They need to slide there or not even just slide, but just pump the brakes on the Uzi thing. Have the shirt, wear the shirt even, but you got to draw the line in the sand on not like going too overboard with it and making your baby faces look bad. Yeah, I mean, this obviously can happen, but Hazan, I mean, I just don't think that generally works in the best way. I mean, think about all the memorable storylines that you loved in professional wrestling throughout the years. Most of them have a good guy and a bad guy in it. Always. That's what plays. That's what draws money historically. And not just historically, but in 2022 also, having that investment. And so I don't think you can just let people cheer whoever. Things get really complicated and really muddy in some instances. So that's my take on that. Sliding into MJF territory a little bit in a different way. You're right. Yeah, in a different way. Like it's not. I don't think it's as passionate yet, but who's to say? Who's to say it can't get there? Like, you don't want it to go that way. You want to be more protective of your baby faces than they were yesterday in this instance. Sean, what's going on, man? Thanks for joining us. We're talking a little Raw, and then we're gonna preview NXT here. If you're just joining us, Riddle, boy, talk about a guy that lost all the momentum in the world. Like, he must have just been a Vince McMahon guy, because man, his push just falling off a cliff coincides with Vince McMahon leaving the company. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know what they have in him anymore. I mean, they have a guy who gets a genuine reaction from the crowd. I think there is a connection there, but he just doesn't have the juice behind him from a booking perspective to make him a relevant and legitimate challenger, So I think he's kind of in this role that we saw him in yesterday, which is babyface fodder for the heels. Now, I will say that I thought Solo Sikoa looked great, just destroying Riddle. I thought Solo Sikoa has always been like one of the kind of the crown jewels from the NXT 2.0 era, and I think they're going to have him versus Riddle is going to be a really good match. Maybe it's not where you want Riddle to be if you're a Riddle fan, but if you're a Solo Sikoa fan, it's a good feud. It's a good feud to kind of kickstart Solo Sikoa's run on the main roster. If he's going to work somebody bigger, like at WrestleMania, maybe Drew McIntyre, maybe Kevin Owens, like this is a good kind of starting feud for that. And I just thought he looked great. Like, the moves look crisp. The offense looked real. Riddle did his job as a babyface and sold for him like crazy. So yeah, I think it was a really good angle last night, but just not what you want if you're a Riddle fan, or if you're Riddle for that matter. All right, let's why don't we put a pause on the Raw discussion. You guys can hit me up on Twitter if you want to do that. It's at ZHayDornTorch. Let me get to the pointing. Boop, right there. Okay, at ZHayDornTorch. And let's preview NXT. We've got a pay-per-view, or a PLE, I guess I should say, coming up on Saturday. It's NXT Deadline, and we get a brand new match from WWE, the Iron Survivor Challenge. I'm not going to go over all the rules to that match right now, but I think it will be an interesting match. Like, I think new is good right now. There's a lot in WWE that's the same, right? Like, it's we see cage matches, we see a Hell in a Cell at some point. We're going to get Elimination Chamber, Money in the Bank. We've seen ladder matches and Last Man Standing. Like it's all very, I don't know, just not fresh all the time. And I don't have any clue whether this Iron Survivor Challenge thing is going to work. It involves trying to get the most pinfalls in 25 minutes. If you get pinned, you need to leave the match for a while. There you go. Like that's kind of the crux of it. The winner's gonna get an NXT Championship match, and there's a men's match and there's a women's match. There's the essence of it. I think it could be cool, because I think there's drama in, who gets pinned and who's doing the pinning. So it's not just about winning, but it's about who you're beating. And I think that's an interesting nugget for this match. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. I mean, I really am. And I guess I have no expectations, but I like the idea that it's going to be new. On the show this week, we've got two kind of last chance battles for the final Iron Survivor Challenge spot. So on the men's side of things, it's Axiom versus Von Wagner versus Andre Chase. The winner of that is going to the men's Iron Survivor Challenge. In the women's division, it's Indy Hartwell versus Wendy Chu versus Fallon Henley for the 5th spot in the women's Iron Survivor Challenge at NXT Deadline. So I think those two matches are going to bookend the show. I think you're going to have one at the beginning, one at the end. On the men's side of things, oh man, I don't like that I'm saying this, guys, because I'm just not high on this guy at all. But he's got that size, and so I think we're gonna see Von Wagner take that men's crown and head to that match. Von Wagner's not going to win this match. I mean, this match has Carmelo Hayes written all over it to win this match. I think he's going to win it. But what Von Wagner, I think, brings to the match is just a different style of wrestler. He can do a lot, in terms of being strong and lift guys. He can make the match interesting. He could blow through some opponents and get some pinfalls, and take some people out. We're going to get to this in a minute for sure, Azan, because that's an issue for sure. So that's my pick. Like, to Azan's point, there is only heels in this match right now. And so Axiom stands out as somebody that you could put in that spot to be a babyface. And so does Andre Chase. But the thing is, it's like, if you put that babyface in there, I guess you can tell a story of, the babyface kind of overcoming the odds and trying to be the guy that outlasts the heels and then just doesn't. I think from a match perspective, though, Von Wagner might work out a little bit better in terms of what he can do, because you're going to have a bunch of heels fighting each other anyway, right? Like, that's unavoidable because you're not going to add in 4 babyfaces at this time. So you still have that root problem. And so I think one babyface in the match is not going to help that out. It'll help a little bit, but it won't completely alleviate, the fact that you're going to have fans cheering some heels in this match, because that's all that there is. I think you kind of have a different type of wrestler in Von Wagner. So I'll go that route. And then on the women's side of things, boy, I don't know that I'm really digging any of the options, but I'll go ahead and say Indy Hartwell, just because she's got some beef with Roxanne Perez, who's going to be in the match. So I'll go that route, and then which leaves Wendy Chu and Fallon Henley out. But I don't think they're on the cusp of being ready for the world title anyway. So I think that's fine. I'm excited for both these matches. I think both these matches can deliver. I think that they're gonna, again, the Iron Survivor Challenge is going to be a reason to watch NXT Deadline, and this will round that out. Also on the show tonight, we have Tony D'Angelo returning to the ring after the knee injury that he suffered. We don't know who the opponent's going to be, but this screams like squash match city for sure. And I think Tony D'Angelo is going to win. And that's that. Let's get Sean. I want to get to your comment here. Yeah, Vaughn is not good. Vaughn is not good. Wendy Chu is so talented, but her gimmick is awful. Couldn't agree more, man. Von Wagner drives me crazy. Like, it's just like, my God, how, there's not even to me, and this sounds mean, and I'm not trying to be mean here. I really am not. But Von Wagner just does not have a charismatic bone in his body. He's got to find that personality, man. He's got the size. Like, he has the size. That's always going to be there for him. And that's always going to get him opportunities that other people may or may not have, right? But you have to be able to supplement that with something. And when he talks, it's just like, oh my goodness, you just want to like kind of turn the brain off because it's so monotone. It's so forced. He might as well be holding the script, like, and yes, he passes the airport test. He does. And that's a good thing for him and for WWE. I just, it's just been a really rough go with him. And he can have good matches when he's in there with good opponents. Like, he had a good little run with Solo Sikoa, but outside of that, I mean, my goodness, not good. Okay, so we have Tony D'Angelo returning. We don't know who his opponent will be yet. Pretty Deadly is going to present a quote unquote real Christmas story. Here's your kind of vignette segment of the show. This is not my cup of tea for wrestling in general, but it has its place in WWE television. You have to give them that when you're analyzing the product. Like, this is part of what they do. And clearly, like, it draws some ratings. They did it last night on Raw with the poker game, right? This happens. Pretty Deadly are great talents to be doing this in NXT. Like, a segment like this, they can pull it off. They are going to be main roster guys. They're going to be main roster acts. I think they're going to be main roster acts that deliver in the tag division. So watch these guys, and I think tonight, whether the segment is a hit or a miss, 9 times out of 10, I think they're misses. But if there's anybody that can pull it off, it's Pretty Deadly. And lastly, the last thing that they're promoting is a Grayson Waller effect to quote unquote set the stage for their Iron Survivor Challenge. I kind of think this is your segment where you just see everybody in the Iron Survivor Challenge brawling at some point during the show. To me, that's what this is. That's what this is going to be. So be ready for that. The one thing missing from this preview is a good, solid go home segment for Braun Breaker and Apollo Crews. Last week they had like the in diner segment where they kind of were talking trash to each other, but kind of not. But respectful at the same time. Like, I think you need another go home segment this week. You need like another chance for them to sell you on the match. Like, give them that opportunity. Braun Breaker in particular, he's the babyface. If he's going to be a top star in WWE on the main roster, he's got to be able to cut like a go home babyface promo, put people in seats, right? As they say. We haven't really seen that from him yet, and I think it's important that we do. And maybe that will come in the form of a video, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. I think that does the trick just fine. But you have to have something to kind of give that match a little intrigue. So that's the show, guys. It should be a good one. Let's just clean up the chat here. Hey, Hassan, thanks for joining us. Nathan, thanks for joining us. Fallon Henley, my friend, is wrestling Indy Hartwell and Wendy Chu in a triple threat match. The winner of that is moving on to the Iron Survivor Challenge and NXT Deadline on Saturday night. So that's the story. That's the story there. And Sean, I'm surprised that they haven't done more with Grayson Waller. Like, I think that Waller is a guy that should have already had like a big time feud with Braun Breaker, like as a staple member of like the NXT 2.0 roster. Like, why not, give him some juice, give him some heat, instead he's kind of like been on the periphery doing stuff with Apollo Crews and doing stuff, some tag stuff. He's doing his Grayson Waller effect thing, but he has not been, a central point of the story around the championship week in and week out. He's got a lot of charisma, yes, as you said, Sean, and he's got talent. in the ring, out of the ring. I mean, he kind of knows how to play that role. But he needs to be positioned in the right way on the show to do it. I mean, he is much more, Miz now than he is like a credible heel, like on the show. Like he's more Miz than even Austin Theory, I think, at this point. Like I think you could compare Grayson Waller and Austin Theory back when Vince McMahon was booking the show. Because I think Grayson Waller was presented in a similar kind of way in NXT. And now Austin Theory has taken like a big kind of step forward in a different direction. And Waller's still kind of in that same Miz-ish type spot. So yeah, if you're him, boy, you want to find that next gear when we haven't seen it yet. Maybe, it only takes one match or one promo or to get there. But he's got to show that he understands that's where he needs to go. All right, guys. Thank you. We're a little over 30 minutes here. I appreciate you guys giving me your time, and hopefully you enjoyed yourself. I certainly did. I always do, as you guys know. Love talking wrestling with you guys, and we'll be back tomorrow live right here to preview AEW Dynamite and maybe talk a little bit of NXT. Let me do a little bit of follow up. It's kind of fun to kind of chat briefly about the previous night's show if we're talking live here. So we'll try to do that tomorrow afternoon. Keep it locked on Twitter. Follow us at PWTorch. Follow me at ZHaydoranTorch. And of course, guys, taking the care of a little business here. Subscribe to the channel. Anybody out there who's watching this, maybe not live, give it a go. I think you'll be happy that you did. Thank you, everybody. Hassan, Azan, Sean, Dr. Ross, Steven, Dennis, appreciate you. Yeah, Sean, we had a blast on Friday night talking SmackDowns. Hopefully you guys listened to that show. Javier is great. And always a good talking to him. Sean, you were there. Get to hear your jingle, man. It was badass as usual. So thank you. We'll be here tomorrow. Appreciate it. Enjoy NXT tonight. We'll catch you guys next time.